All right, and welcome back to the Investor Shed podcast. I'm Nick Beveridge here with the co-host, the man of the hour, Jeremy Kitchen.
I'm not the man of the hour today, but thank you so much. We have a different man of the hour as our guest in the building. We have Andrew Simpson over on live right now. How we doing?
Over on live. Right
Over on
now.
live.
How you doing, Andrew?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Doing great.
Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Andrew, so lately I've been doing some deals with Andrew lately. I'm like, man, I got to get you on the show because he's got a cool niche that we'll get into, pre-foreclosures. But Andrew, can you tell us a little bit about your background and, little bit about like business experience and what made you want to get into real estate?
Sure, absolutely. So I grew up in Bonners Ferry, Idaho, and went to high school there.
Okay.
And my parents, have you guys ever heard of like Rocky Mountain Academy or those schools up there?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah,
I haven't.
They're like boarding schools for troubled teenagers.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
My
okay.
parents got into that business and eventually started doing that kind of model, but outside of the country. And
Wow.
So
Okay.
I would work for my parents for different time periods in different Latin American countries,
Okay.
which was cool. So my brother and I both got to be fluent in Spanish and got some cool out of the country work experience.
Yeah.
But the problem
This
is
when you were younger, like teenage years, or
20s and 30s.
20s and 30s. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were running like troubled boys' homes out of the country?
Pretty much, yeah. It was a much smaller scale than Rocky Mountain Academy.
Okay.
And the business would kind of go in like starts and stops, and so it wasn't entirely consistent.
Yeah.
Sure.
So when we
Nothing
came
is at the
back-
beginning.
Yeah, when we came back, we were working like call center jobs, waiting tables, doing kind of random jobs, under the table landscaping, stuff like that.
Okay.
But the experience that we did gain while we were actually working for my parents was awesome because we were, in a different culture, and that was great. But I always kind of wanted to have my own business, and in 2017, I was working a construction job, which I was horrible at.
What kind of construction?
It was siding,
Okay.
siding on houses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was really good because I started off really good because I was doing the grunt work, and I did that really fast,
Yeah.
really, really quickly. They're like, "Oh, you're going to be a great worker," until they actually, had me use a measuring tape and tools, and it was just
Right. Until you actually did stuff.
Dude, it is so hard to find siders in this area.
Yeah.
Like people that do siding is just, I don't know why it's so hard, but it is. Yeah, maybe not for you because you're in the industry, but.
Yeah, so right in January of 2018, I got laid off from that job. And
Okay.
it ended up being kind of a perfect storm because my parents had a bunch of storage units they needed to get rid of the stuff in.
Uh-huh.
And my mom had a tremendous book collection, and I Googled like how to get rid of these books. And so I sold a few on eBay, and sold one for like $200. It was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then was looking at how to scale it, so I eventually started an Amazon account and started selling books, and was able to find, new sources of books, and kind of jumped into that full time.
So what kind of books are selling for $200?
Mostly college textbooks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
That's crazy. So you started an online business through Amazon, and you wanted to scale. How did that end up going for you?
It went pretty good because I found some really good sources where I could get books for about 25 cents a pop.
Okay.
And the first year that I was actually doing it full time, I had, which was 2019, was $160,000 in total sales.
Nice.
So
That's pretty good.
Okay.
And the way I did it was I would sell it on Amazon Prime, so you actually ship it to Amazon, and then
Okay.
they fulfill the orders when the customers actually order the individual books.
Gotcha.
So you ship a big box, and then they will pick out of the box, which orders sell.
That's awesome.
So do you send it to Amazon before or after it's sold on Amazon?
Before, so you have softwares that you can kind of analyze each book, what it will sell for, how quickly it will sell. Because if it's not going to sell quick, you don't want to be accumulating storage fees and all that.
Yeah, you don't want to have 100 books stored over there, maybe 1 or 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so Amazon charges you a storage fee?
They charge a storage fee and all kinds of other fees. So actually, say you make 160 grand in total sales, then you're going to be paying probably half or more of that in Amazon fees, and then you also have to pay. You also have to pay for your inventory, and so, you know, it sounds like a decent amount, but I wasn't making that much money. It was probably like, you know, $50,000 after everything.
Sure.
was accounted
Holy
for.
crap. No wonder Jeff Bezos is so jacked.
He's going to the gym on your money.
That's how he can afford his Planet Fitness membership.
Yeah. What a cool way to get into business. So you started doing this. You did this for over a year, I'm assuming.
I did it for a while until it kind of like seemed like it didn't have, you know, any more upside, and it wasn't as good as it was.
Sure.
COVID really changed a lot of things. For a while, when COVID happened, they stopped us from sending in new shipments, which is kind of like the lifeblood of our business.
Yep.
Oh, man.
And then once they finally let us actually resume shipping, they put like an inventory cap, so you could only have a certain amount of stuff in inventory, and that kind of hurt too, because, you know, during that high point I had like 5,000 units in inventory, and
Wow.
they put the cap at like 2,000 something, so that was a big hit.
Sure.
Where were you finding most of these books and stuff? Was it in storage sheds or
Thrift stores for the most part.
thrift stores?
Wow.
Okay. Interesting. So you were
I would go in
hustling.
there, yeah, I'd go in there with a little Bluetooth scanner that would attach to my phone, and you shoot a little laser at the barcode of the book, and then it would shoot the result on your phone. And if it was a book that you should buy that sold quickly for enough money, it would go cha-ching. So it's kind of like
Oh, nice.
it's very addicting, kind of like gambling. Cause
Yeah, like a lottery ticket when you do it's like winner, you know. Wow.
It's an incredible idea.
That is an incredible idea, but also like obviously, was this a one-man operation, Andrew, or did you have other people helping you out with this?
It was pretty much me, but I had my dad and my brother help me from time to time, and then
Sure.
sometimes I would sell. I had a really cool spreadsheet where you could track everything, so I would sometimes sell them on consignment. If someone would bring me one that was profitable, I would
Oh, cool.
list them and then pay them out profits as they came in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a wild thing. Like I never thought like anybody going to thrift stores and buying books and then just reselling them on Amazon, like that's a business.
Yeah,
Yeah, and giving
it
Jeff
was
Bezos half the
fun for a
money.
while.
Yeah. Giving Bezos half the money. That's how it works though, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So, so what'd you do after then? Like after that, the COVID kind of disturbed your business or disrupted it a little bit.
So I kept kind of doing that all the way until early 2023.
Okay.
My youngest daughter was born, and I remember kind of sitting there and being like, I got to do something else. You kind of looking for something else to do.
Yeah.
And then I found on YouTube Sub 2
Okay. Yeah.
Base Morby's videos.
Yep.
And I was like, sweet, you can buy a house without credit or cash. That's what got me initially looking at it. And then after that, they kept talking about this thing called wholesaling, and I was like, you can really buy something for a cheap price and sell it for higher without actually buying it.
Yep.
And, when I heard that, I was like, I got to do this.
Yeah, because you were essentially kind of already doing that, but you had to purchase those books and go through all that. So this probably sounded easier. And
Yeah, it sounded easier.
It sounds easier, right? That's a good point.
And so I think
less product to move around.
What's that?
Less product to move around.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how you got into wholesaling through Pace Morby.
Yeah.
Incredible. That's how did it start, and how did you end up growing this company? Like, obviously, wholesaling is one of the things in the real estate business where it's really a boots on the ground business. Walk us through kind of how you started that, if you don't mind.
So when I was watching those videos and stuff, I think it had to be like late February or it's probably early March. And I kind of gave myself a deadline. I said, all right, April 1st, you're going to start calling people. You're not going to keep watching videos,
Yep.
Yeah.
So I did that, had no idea what I was doing. And I got some kind of list from, I think it was Jerry Norton or something. And got some kind of list from his information, and then was dialing with my cell phone, and it was I didn't really know what to say or anything, and I hardly ever talked to anybody either because hand dialing is just not really effective. And so I kind of was like, all right, I got to rethink my approach.
Yeah.
And it seemed that the consensus on YouTube was, if you're just starting out, you need to drive for dollars and get a triple line dialer. So I started driving for dollars and just driving around and marking down beat up looking houses.
Okay. And were you still living in Bonners Ferry at the time, or
No, we're actually out in Sagal.
in Sagal? Okay. Did you stay in that area, or did you go to more like Coeur d'Alene or more north, or just wherever?
I think I've really started with I went straight for Spokane and Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, okay. So you ventured off into Spokane. A lot more opportunity there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about how did the first couple of months go?
Once I got the software for the dialer hooked in, it started pretty quick. And the funny thing about driving for dollars, what I've noticed is the driving for dollars lists that I had at the very beginning were a lot better than the ones that I would have, half a year down the road because I'd run out of funky looking houses,
Right. There's only so much you can drive.
First ones were the worst ones, which were the best ones. But yeah, it was pretty quick. Once I got that triple line dialer hooked up, which was like June, I got a property under contract in July.
Okay.
Like right around the 1st of July. And it was a property in Coeur d'Alene. I was super excited. I was like, man, this is easy.
Okay.
Yeah, I was super stoked. And then a week later, the sellers called or texted me and said, hey, we can't sell our house. And that was tough.
You're like, what? But I just made all this effort to do this. Oh, that's too bad. So was there any other better reason why they backed out? Did they just decide to stay there, or did they?
Yeah, they said they kind of just looked at the cost of renting a place, the cost of moving anywhere, and we're like, yeah, we can't do this.
Yeah.
I appreciate them being able to do that research, though, to be honest with you. Like, I'd rather someone be upfront and honest, be like, this isn't going to work, rather than be able to, put somebody out who isn't going to be able to make it, again, if that makes sense. Like, we're not in the business of displacing people. We're in the business of, helping people and presenting them opportunity.
Sure we are.
Sure we are.
Give me that equity.
At first, I wasn't sure if they were just saying that or if they'd got a higher offer.
Right.
But turns out they were absolutely truthful. I actually called the guy I think 2 months ago or so, and he's still in the house.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it is hard for a lot of people to leave a house that has decent equity and actually be in a better position when they go somewhere else right now.
Right.
I mean, with interest rates higher and prices high and rents high, it's got to be a unique seller that has a place to fall back on or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time. So it doesn't mean that there are no deals out there. They're just really, really hard to piece together lately. Sure. So when did you get and complete your first deal?
That wasn't until I got it in September, but didn't complete it till November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So a few months. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that one?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a rundown triplex in downtown Spokane.
Uh-huh.
And it was kind of a dumpster fire because I couldn't have got it done without AJ and the Easy Homebuyer guys.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, so did you joint venture with them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us how that works?
Yeah, so joint venture is when you partner with another investor, another wholesaler. And normally one person's bringing the seller and the contract, and the other person is bringing the buyer to execute on the contract.
Right.
And you split the profits normally 50-50. I mean, sometimes you can work out a better deal, but...
Right.
Yeah. So you already had this property under contract. You just didn't really have,
The buyer.
a buyer's list or an easy way to disposition it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Got it. And they had this huge list in Spokane. And,
Yeah.
And so you could just partner with them, split the money,
Yeah.
and get it done. That makes sense.
That's a good way
It
to do
got
it.
really tricky because, I still am a newbie, but I was an Uber newbie back then. And the guy who was selling the property used to be an investor, and so he had his own contract and his own title company that we opened up escrow with. So eventually I was like, yeah, we need to switch title companies because I'm going to sign this. And he's like, I sign it? And
What?
I tried to explain it to him 50 different ways, and he just didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And so finally, how it was able to work out was they just stayed at the title company, and since AJ had a really good connection with his buyer, they paid the assignment fee outside of escrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So you got it worked out.
Yeah, so
Nice.
they totally saved my bacon on that one.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's weird how title and escrow companies they're not all similar, right? So some of them may not know what an assignment is. Some of them may not know what sub 2 is. You got to really vet these closing people who are going to help you bring your deal to the finish line in order to work effectively, I would say.
Yeah. I think all these title and escrow companies, they know what it is. Some are just not as comfortable doing it as others.
Yeah.
Or they're they're underwriters.
Right. So let's rewind just a tad bit real quick, Andrew. So obviously you got your triple line dialer. And for the people out there listening, is that just a 3-line dialer at once? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it will call 3 different phone numbers at once.
Okay.
And it will, most of them aren't going to answer. Most people don't answer the phone when you call them.
Right.
But when somebody does answer, it will, patch you into that line and drop the other 3 calls. So sometimes, every once in a while you'll have 2 people answer at the same time. One person will just get dropped,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Do you know which one that is so you can come back to them later? No. Oh, they answered the phone. Well,
I think the dialer has some kind of intelligence like that. Yeah.
Okay. So walk us through this real quick, because wholesaling is something that I'm aware of, but I don't ever want to do. What's it like talking to people and trying to figure out if they want to sell their house or not? It seems like you're going to get a lot of doors slammed in your face, I'm assuming, correct?
Sure, you do. You get people that'll cuss you out. You get people that will, blab with you for a half hour. You get everything in between.
Sure.
And actually, eventually you'll get someone that says, yeah, I want to sell my house, but is it for the right price? And is it something that you want to buy?
So walk us through your call flow then, right? So, you how are you building rapport with these people? And then what questions are you asking in particular to be like, hey, I would like to buy your house for cash. Is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't really waste time. I just say, hey, trying to reach the owner of such and such property. And then they say, yeah. And then I say, yeah, I was curious if you'd be interested. If it was a driving for dollars list, I actually mentioned hey, I just drove by your property the other day.
Sure.
And I was curious if you'd be interested at all in selling. And then they either say yes, no, click, or maybe they'll ask you another question.
Sure.
Which isn't good. You want to be the one asking the questions.
Right. You want to be in control of that conversation for sure. Yeah, and just it's curious. We had RD on the other week who does Spectrum.
yeah, a lot of door-to-door sales.
The door-to-door sales world is a crazy world for sure. Did you start with this confidence, or did you just kind of learn along the way how to talk to people? Because that first conversation I feel would be super awkward. Hi, I want to buy houses.
Yeah, it was super awkward when I was hand dialing, with my cell phone. But once I got on the dialer, it's a bit less intimidating because all you have to do is press go.
Okay.
You're not actually sitting there dialing, and then you just wait until you're talking to somebody. So
Sure.
To me, the dialer, as opposed to the cell phone, eliminates a lot of the anxiety and the overthinking. Yeah. You just press play, and then you kind of look at something on the internet until you hear it click, and then until you hear the beep.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and then you're just ready to go. Yeah.
That makes sense because like pulling up somebody's phone and be like, okay, I got to work myself up to this. I got to get back into sales mode versus just click a button and I'm going. Up. It's inbound
and then
sales
they don't
now.
answer, and you're like, got to dial some other number here. Let's look, or should I make notes? Yeah. Yeah. I can see how that would be highly effective for someone who's doing cold calls.
Yeah, you can just sit there literally scrolling through shorts while you're waiting for a call.
There you go.
Yeah. Right on.
What's your conversion rate? How many phone calls or how many people do you end up talking to daily, would you say?
I don't know. I don't do as much cold calling anymore, but
Sure.
man, I was really last year at this time I was cranking hard. I was doing like, well, I would actually try to market by actually people talk to, because
Right.
you know you'll get a lot of people, a lot of beeps, and then nobody will be on the other end. So I like to mark down on my notepad how many people I've talked to, and
Yeah.
I would try to hit 100, and that could keep me on the phone 8 to 10 hours a day.
Wild.
Holy crap. You're a machine, man. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. But that is like what you need to do to
Right.
grow like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
big business. Is like Alex Hormozy says it, like if you really want to grow a big business, just contact 100 people a day
Yeah.
for 100 days and it will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know approximately how many people you have to talk to get a deal? Like, do you know those kind of metrics yet, or not, or is it still a work in progress?
Not really, no. No,
Okay.
I don't know that. Yeah.
When did you? So, did you ever do? By the way, you got into Pace Morby pretty quickly. Did you ever end up doing a sub 2 deal?
I did actually. It's funny because most people don't do creative deals until way further on. But my first deal,
Yeah.
that one that I told you about in Spokane with that triplex, that was an owner finance deal.
Okay.
So that was interesting. That's what made it a little bit more complicated. But
Yeah.
the second deal I did in March was a sub 2 deal. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. How did that? Can you talk about that sub 2 deal? How it went down and?
Yeah. It was a very unlikely deal. It was a lead it wasn't cold calling, it was a pay-per lead service.
Okay.
And that's where you pretty much hire an agency to run ads for you online, and then the ad comes in to your email or text message, and you want to call it as soon as it gets to you. You call them up and kind of go through the 4 pillars of the questions about the house, and how soon they want to sell, and what's got them wanting to sell, and how much they want for it. And yeah, this gal had a house out in Medical Lake area, and it was a big house, and it had not too much equity, but she needed to get out of it. And so I saw sub 2 as a solution where she could get a little bit of money and get out of the house. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Did you end up partnering again with Easy Home Buyer, dispoing that, or were you able to do that on your own at that point?
Yeah, we did another JV deal.
Okay, great.
The interesting thing is it was not like a traditional deal that you would think an investor would want. And it was a retail buyer that actually bought it.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So, when did you start kind of more specializing or going after real heavy the pre-foreclosures? Because that's what I'm really most curious about. That's really kind of a niche that a lot of people, I think, it's so misunderstood how foreclosures work, I think.
Yeah.
Just even people that are in the business still don't even understand the difference sometimes between a pre-foreclosure, a foreclosure, an REO. Like people that are in the business still get confused by how all this works. So do you mind explaining like what got you interested in going after that, and how you were able to piece together your first deal doing pre-foreclosures?
Sure. Well, there's another YouTube guy who's kind of like a cousin of Sub 2. His name is Michael Frankie. And
Michael Frankie, okay.
Yeah, he runs this community called Niche,
Oh, nice. Okay.
which I'm part of that community. I wasn't part of that community when I got started, but his YouTube videos were really good about foreclosures and how to talk to people in that situation. And that's his content kind of got me interested in it.
Sure.
And it was also the fact that my part-time job during this whole time, after we left Segal, I kind of dropped the books and got a part-time job doing mortgage field inspections.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I was already kind of driving by and taking pictures of all these houses in foreclosure. And
Nice.
That's perfect.
Yeah. That's really good.
yeah, so that combined with his content kind of got me interested in it. And it's funny because cold calling, when you're cold calling, you call everybody, which includes some people in pre-foreclosure.
Right.
So I talked to some people in pre-foreclosure, but I didn't do my first actual door knock until like May of 24.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was crazy because it was pretty much the first pre-foreclosure that I intentionally knocked. It was over in Spokane Valley.
Right.
And I would talk to the lady, and she was friendly, and it seemed like she was open to having someone help her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I came back the next day and was able to get it under contract.
Right on.
Cool.
And then to clarify, for the people out there listening that want to know more about how this works, a pre-foreclosure it's just someone who's behind on their payments, and now it's publicly known.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily mean that their house is for sale, or that they want to sell or want to talk to anybody.
Right.
But is there anything else that people should know about that term, pre-foreclosure?
Not that I can think of. I'll tell you that with pre-foreclosures, sellers will normally be more prone to take action, like either right when the notice comes out, or right before they're about to lose their house.
Right until the last second, like right at the beginning or right at the end. That makes sense.
The time in between is generally like the head in the sand time when they don't want to do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Avoid you.
Right, and they're just hoping the problem just goes away.
That's so common.
It is. When you're talking to these people, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but you're not allowed to market to people and say like, "I heard you're behind on your payments." You're allowed to just be like, "Is that a conversation you have at the beginning, or is that just something that gets naturally brought up?"
I guess I just say that I'm there to help.
Okay.
I don't really. I don't say it like that, but I also
Right.
don't steer away from it. In Washington, I realized it's actually the laws are pretty crazy, so I don't do as much over there. But,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
didn't know that at the time.
I thought you can't you can't send out paper mailers like, "Looks like you're in pre-foreclosure. I'm here to help" type of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Nick's double checking right now to see if
I'm
you
just
can do
fact checking real quick about that, because I don't think that there's any rules in Idaho about marketing.
In Washington, it's really crazy. We're like,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to contract a house within 20 days of an auction. All these crazy.
Right.
So when I read through them, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Because they're really just horrible laws. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Idaho, just for clarification, yes, you are allowed to market to pre-foreclosures, but there are specific rules and ethical considerations to keep in mind.
Right.
But for the most part, you're allowed to market to these people.
Okay, cool.
So just want to throw that out there, that there are specific things that you can do.
Yeah.
Or can't potentially do.
Yeah.
But in Idaho, it's pretty...
For anyone listening, though, the point I wanted to make was like just make sure you check on your state legislation and what you're legally allowed to do, because when you're getting started out, the worst thing you want is like a lawsuit and to do business wrong, because that sets you off on the wrong foot, I believe.
Yeah. And the easiest way is just use ChatGPT and just ask.
It's true.
In my state, am I allowed to market to pre-foreclosures? And what are the exceptions and that kind of stuff? They'll tell you pretty fast.
Cool. So how do you go about getting, your pre-foreclosure lists and everything like that?
Part of the community that I'm in right now is the data. So they give you data that's very up to date, and it's all in one space, so it's easy to get to and sort through. So I get it through the niche.
Okay.
Yeah. So how do you prefer to market to these people? Are you mailing, cold calling, door knocking, all of the above? Like, what are you doing that seems to be the most effective?
I will call and I will knock, and I will knock neighbors. I'll knock their relatives. I'll knock. Well, I'll just go after. I'll stalk them on social media.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Not stalk in a negative way.
Yeah. Find out about them,
Yeah. Especially if it's a vacant property, because those owners can be most difficult to find. But
Sure.
it's definitely worth it.
I think that's an important thing to realize. Like, you're not doing most of this behind your desk. Like, you're outside turning over rocks for these opportunities, because there are a tremendous amount of people out there that are also aware of these pre-foreclosures, and they're probably just not going to put in the extra work to go outside and knock on a door, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so that's what gives you a little bit of an edge, I would imagine. Yeah, so what was your first pre-foreclosure deal like, if you don't mind going in depth?
Well, that one that I had under contract, it did not end up closing or anything like that. And it was actually like a situation where the gal was applying for assistance from the state. And so I said, hey, listen, why don't we put this contract in place, just in case your assistance application doesn't come through. If it does come through, we'll let you out of the contract. So sure enough, a day or two before we were set to close, the assistance came through, so we let her out of the contract. So that was the first one. And that's very common in Washington State. They have like a homeowner assistance fund.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we're pretty much, if you're living in the house, if it's not like a rental for you, and you're behind, they will cover up to $60,000. Pretty much, it's not like a loan or anything even attached to the property. It's just like no strings attached. Pay off of your arrears.
Holy shit! I didn't know about this.
Yeah, it's called the Homeowner Assistance Fund.
Wow. So go move to Washington, just stop making payments.
Everything will be okay.
That's a quick way to put 60 grand in your pocket.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Good job, Washington. No wonder you're not in debt. I'm just kidding. I don't know how it works, but okay. So what was the next deal like that you actually closed on?
Trying to think. Well, I had another one. Let me tell you this other one. This was an interesting one. So it was a house in Kellogg, and literally got it under contract like 2 days before the auction.
Okay.
And it was a crazy one. And we tried to call the trustee to get it canceled, and eventually they didn't cancel it. So that was a bummer.
Okay. Yeah.
So it got foreclosed on as you were under contract. Okay.
No.
So not all these deals are clean.
Right.
No.
What can you give us some examples of ones that actually did go off pretty well?
The one in Post Falls that we just had closed. Now that one.
Yeah, that was messy.
That was.
Should we go in depth about how many issues that property had? Because I think that it's pretty interesting how we were able to still salvage that.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't seem salvageable, but we did it.
To be honest, that one I'd kind of written off as like, I don't think it's going to happen, but luckily it did.
Yeah. Maybe I'll tell my side and you can tell your side.
Yeah,
if you don't mind. Because I ended up being your end buyer on this deal that you're talking about. But yeah, Andrew sent me an opportunity that was pretty much right across the street from this development deal that I did about a year ago. And I was super interested because I'm like, man, I bet you the city would annex this in. And this could be worth a lot if we can go down that route. But yeah, you brought me to the property to show it to me, and the seller didn't show up, but his dogs were there. We couldn't get in the house because it was locked up, and it was a 5-acre property, 4.5, but full of stuff like RVs and trash and all kinds of vehicles that were broken down, and a couple of shops that we couldn't get in, but at least we can walk the land. And you told me, we got it under contract at this price, but the title's a little bit messy. We're not sure if we can actually stick to that price. But
right.
I'm like, well, if you can, I'll buy it right now. Because it was at a price point to where even if I couldn't get it annexed in, I can still, fix and flip the house and be just fine. It would be like a normal fix and flip.
Right.
And then I get a call from the title company a couple days after I've dropped off my earnest money, and we went, you assigned me the contract. And Tammy Culp at Title One just explained to me that there were 14 liens on the property, and they're still waiting on a few.
Wow.
But there's a good chance that they're a couple $100,000 over what we were anticipating. So yeah, I was just like, ugh, I don't think we can make that work. Unless we were able to get it annexed in, but it was also, it was scheduled to be foreclosed on by multiple different parties.
With 14 liens on it, yeah, someone's gonna
Yeah.
foreclose.
So, yeah, take it. But I want to hear your side. What was it like being on your end, Andrew? And,
It was interesting, yeah, because this was the cool part about this one is I don't think I would have got this deal had I not been in a car wreck,
Okay.
like
oh,
middle of August, and yeah, so I had to stop doing those mortgage inspections, which was
okay.
kind of a blessing in hindsight, and so I couldn't really, go out and do that work that I was doing. So this property is pretty close to where I'm living right now, and so I was on the way to a doctor's appointment, probably like the 17th of August, and I told my wife, I was like, drive by this foreclosure, and we did, and the what I presumed to be the owner was out there, and she's like, go talk to him. So I popped out and started talking to him, and then because I wasn't doing any work at the time, I was just recovering from the accident, I had time to stop by and keep the conversation going with the seller.
Sure.
And that was a process that went on for probably about 2 months, and right up until before the first auction was scheduled. There's about 2 weeks or 10 days before the auction was coming, and I was like, hey buddy, we should probably sign a contract, so
Yeah.
and by that time,
Head was in the sand, like you said, for a long time, which is common.
Yeah.
But okay, so did he? Would he? And was he kind of halfway living on the property? Not really. Like, what was that like? Like, how were you able to get a hold of him?
I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, he didn't answer the phone, especially when I first met him. He wouldn't answer the phone a lot, so going there was definitely the best way to communicate with him.
Sure.
But I don't think, without having the time to go over there multiple times and kind of build that trust, I don't think I would have been able to get him to sign a contract when it came time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys end up closing on that last week, correct?
Yeah.
Friday or something?
I don't remember what day, but we closed on it last week.
Okay.
It was the day before. It was the day before it got a sheriff's sale.
Right.
The 7th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this this was a very unique property that had a huge opportunity, but it wasn't guaranteed.
Right.
If you can get it annexed into the city and get it zoned R2, you can put potentially 28 lots on this property and build it out. And a couple years later, you can sell it for almost $3.5 million.
Right.
Putting it about $1 million in improvements into it.
Right.
But there's still, you can double your money, double your investment. So it had tremendous upside, but it was still, what we decided to do was sit down with the seller. Andrew was able to coordinate this because this guy's hard to get a hold of,
Sure.
of course. And we were able to bring him into the office and just explain to him that we have, we just learned that if you want to close on this deal, you have to bring about $200,000 to the table, and he doesn't have that. He's not going to do that.
Right.
So we either have to back out, or we can potentially still pay all this off and still give you $30,000 if you let us extend the contract and let us apply with the city while you're the owner to try to get it annexed in. So he agreed to do that. And then we also wanted to get a hold of, there was another lien holder that had a second lien on it, a large lien. And we tried to get them to at least maybe accept half for now and then the other half later. And they weren't really willing to do that until we had one of their friends, who was another agent, approach us as a partner, and we decided to bring him on the deal.
Okay.
So it got a lot of people involved, very
Sure.
complicated, but we were able to piece it together just before it got foreclosed on. But there's a lot of moving pieces, and we decided, since there are now 3 partners, myself, Joe, and this other guy, we would go ahead and take the risk on potentially losing money on it if we can't get it annexed in, because it was either we're just going to let this go, or we can close on it. And if we don't get it annexed in, we figured we could lose maybe up to 100 grand, or we'll try to keep the property long term and see if we can just house hack the hell out of it.
Right.
Rent out the barns, rent out like RV spots, fix up the house a little bit. But that partner that we brought in for a 25% share, he brought 100 grand to the table to help us with
Nice.
operation capital and that kind of stuff, and was willing to take the risk. So that made it all come together. Yeah, thank you for that, because it was just there was a lot of renegotiating. But yeah, it seemed like at the very end, everybody got what they wanted, pretty much. There were a lot of sacrifices, but like we had to pay a couple $100 grand more than we wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite amazing. It was either doing that or it just got foreclosed on and everybody lost, right?
Yeah, that was a tough one. I'm glad I brought it to you, because I had no idea what I would even need to sign a contract at to make it like a deal to appeal
Right.
to anybody, until you told me, because that was a really difficult property to comp, or just a complicated property for sure.
Sure. And when you're doing these deals, Andrew, is there like, do you have a number in mind? Like, I'd like to make X on this deal. You don't have to share that number, but like, in order to make a deal work for you and your potential end buyer, like, do you have a number in mind? Like, okay, this has to be worth at least 10K or whatever.
Not really.
No?
I mean, each deal is kind of different.
Sure.
I try to base it off like the 70% rule, and then kind of work backwards.
Sure.
Minus repairs, minus wholesale fee.
Right. Okay.
That's pretty much it. But this property was really difficult to do that on, because the comps were all over the place. They were anywhere from like $500,000 to $1 million. So
Right. It's kind of a wide net, unfortunately.
and no property was in the shape this property was in. So it's really tough to.
Is the property itself in bad shape?
Yeah.
There's just stuff all over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wild.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
We're used to that.
Yeah, that's real estate, I think.
Yeah. We're used to cleaning up
Yeah.
junk. Yeah. And then you brought me another deal recently too, which thank you again. That property in Rathdrum. Do you want to talk about that and how you're able to piece that together? Because you did pretty well. You don't have to share how well you did, but you did pretty well on that one. Pretty good wholesale fee.
Yeah, that was one of those properties which are kind of my favorite, which are vacant pre-foreclosures. And it's really fun when you get a vacant one, because then you have to kind of like put on your investigator hat and kind of figure out what happened, figure out who you need to contact. And I really went the extra mile on this property. I looked on True People Search. If you guys ever look at that website, it's a pretty good website that'll, in a lot of cases, will point you in the right direction.
Sure.
I was kind of hitting a wall with that, and so I went and actually door knocked everyone who was supposed to be a relative on True People Search, which was like 3 houses in Spokane Valley.
Holy crap. Okay.
Yeah, all the people.
This house is this house is in Rathdrum. It's a vacant house, and you're willing to go to another state and knock on doors of relatives to try to figure it out. That's awesome.
Yeah, and each person that answered the door was like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Yeah.
I had no idea who the person was that I was looking for, or about
Okay.
that house or anything. So I was like, all right, cool.
Dead in there.
And I'd actually sent some text mess, but I wasn't going to give up at that point. I had sent some text messages to a few of those phone numbers, and one of the texts I could see where I asked a question, I could see they actually saw the text message, and so I just sent one more question to them about what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And even though they hadn't responded to me for like a week, when I sent that one extra text message, like, oh yeah, this is the person who's in charge of that, and she's blah blah blah, and gave me the contact for.
Nice. Well, that follow through though, I love it. Don't just stop at one text.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're out there, really. You're almost like a homicide investigator. Maybe even better, because I've seen the local people work here in investigations, and it's just pathetic. But so that's awesome. So how did you negotiate that deal? Once you finally got in touch with that, were you talking with the owner directly, or the person responsible for the owner?
Yeah, the power of attorney, who was the daughter.
Okay.
And yeah, she said, yeah, I've been kind of. This is something I need to take care of. but I've been kind of burying my head in the sand. And I said, oh, well, I'm the man to take care of it for you.
Yeah.
And kind of asked her what she was looking for. And she wasn't looking for much as far as like money after the fact. And I even offered to give her a little bit more than she was looking for, and she was happy with that. And so I sent her over a contract, and it actually didn't get signed for like a week or 10 days. But then I kept following up with her, and she's like, oh yeah, thanks for following up. And she signed the contract, and then we got it going.
Nice.
Yeah. So when you were negotiating with her, were you talking about a dollar amount that she would get, like proceeds, or were you talking about like a purchase price for the property?
I was talking about proceeds. So I just asked, I said, what do you, because one of the objections to signing the contract was she said, I don't know how much the lender Shell Point is going to ask for the payoff. So we wouldn't know how much to put on a contract. So what I asked, I said, we don't really need to worry about that because the payoff is constantly changing and we never know what it's going to be until the title company tells us. So why don't you tell me what you're looking for as far as, to walk with in your pocket, and we can put that in the contract. So she let me know what she was looking for actually, to walk with. And I said, hey, why don't I give you a little bit more, put that in the contract, and then we'll adjust the purchase price, when we get the payoff, which is going to be a while because these companies take forever.
Yeah.
So she suggested a certain amount and you upped it on her. You're like, that's not enough, lady.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah, and you still got a screaming deal on it.
Yeah. No, I think that's that shows a lot of character when you can. There's a lot of room here. I can give you a little bit more.
Yeah,
because I'm sure it's got to help her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then let's see. I know you recently did some deals up north, right?
The
Sandpoint. Was that also a pre-foreclosure?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a fun one because it was the first actual contract that I've got or deal that I've done where I was competing directly with somebody.
Okay. Yeah.
And I got it.
Nice.
Yeah. That last deal that we were just talking about, you were competing against somebody too. You probably just don't even know, because I remember as soon as I started cleaning out the house, like the day after we closed, one of the largest, home buyer in the area came and knocked on the door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we're like, sorry, too late.
Oh wow.
Crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. You were talking about your Sandpoint deal.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting one because I was competing against somebody from Home Investors, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
And I was gonna lock up that property at a certain price, and then the Home Investors guy came by right after I did. But the Home Investors guy said, I'm not sure what I can pay. Maybe I can pay, $10,000 more, but let me check with my partners. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to come back by and see how your meeting with Home Investors went. So I went and door knocked a few houses up in Bonners Ferry, and then came back through and talked to him, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. The guy from Home Investors said he might be able to pay $10,000 more. And I was like, well, what if we signed right now for the price that I can offer, and if he does offer $10,000 more, I'll let you out of that contract and you can go with him. And so that was another way to get him.
That's a good way to do that.
Yeah.
So you're constantly asking these people to go under contract with you, but giving them an easy out. It sounds like that seems to be a pattern I keep hearing you say. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to ease tension on them or ease commitments,
right?
Yeah.
While producing action.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's smart.
Yeah,
it's a good way to go. Yeah. And so we signed, and then the next day he called and said, yeah, Home Investors did offer me $10,000, and at that point I wanted to make sure I had a solid buyer, so I called Joe and said, hey, would this work at this price? And she said yes. And so then I said, hey, we can do $10,000 more, can we just stay in contract? And so he said, yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, because you've already built that rapport, and you've already signed the contract. Like, what if we just make it a little more juicy for you? That's a really good way to do that.
Yeah.
And you had your end buyer pay for it. You didn't have to stomach it. You just had to make the arrangement.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that's what helps about having an end buyer already lined up.
Yeah, for sure.
You can kind of.
And the real interesting part about that deal, though, didn't come until closing day. So closing day happens, and the seller's all set to sign up in Sandpoint at the Title One up there.
Yeah.
And I get a call from the closing agent, and she says, your seller has not signed. He, walked out of closing angry about, some fee, and also about the $10,000 holdback that was put on the contract.
Yeah.
And so I was like, shoot.
Yeah.
So I called the seller, and I could tell he had been drinking a little bit. But I was able to kind of remind him, hey, we did put the holdback in there, remember? And I kind of explained, and he remembered, and he was kind of calming down. And I also told him about, because he was upset about, like, there was like $130 service fee or something like that. And I was like, don't worry about it, man. I'll pay for that. Why don't I come up there tomorrow, and I'll take you to the title company, and we'll get it done. And he's like, okay.
Cool.
And yeah, so later that night he sends me a text, and he's like, two of my buddies called, and they offered me $325 for the house, which was more than our, quite a bit more than our purchase price. So I was like, oh, shoot, this is going to be interesting. So the next morning I drove up there and met with him, and gave him that $200 for the service fees that he was worried about. Took him to the title company. We got everything signed, and then at the very end, the escrow person was like, do you have a photo ID so we can notarize this? And seller's like, no, I don't.
Oh, gosh.
So he's like, I think there's a passport back at my house.
I
I was like, all right, here we go. We hop in my car, and I take him back to the house, we're searching for probably about a half hour for the passport, and we can't find it. And so I was like, all right, come on, we'll go to the DMV and get you a new license. And so we headed over to the DMV. Luckily, there was not really a line at all. And,
oh, my God.
driver's license. And after we got that driver's license, we took him back to the title company and got it done.
Yeah.
You had to drag this dude all over the place.
Yeah.
And, yeah, some people wonder why they're poor.
And then we went and had a beer together. And then he wanted me to take him to the bank, and he cashed a huge check. I've never seen that much cash before.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, the check that he got from the title company for the house?
Yep.
He just got it all in cash?
Yep.
Wow.
Oh, wow. How much cash was it?
It was over 100.
Oh, okay. And the bank just had it?
Yeah. So
Nice.
he did one of these, flexing with his money.
Yep.
Well, good for him. Now he's
Wow.
going to go drink it away.
Yeah, it was a fun one.
Yeah.
It's good.
And that's a little bit of like, perseverance lesson. Like, a lot of times people see that like, oh, I did a wholesale deal. The wholesale deal closed. Like it's usually never that linear. There's always like hiccups along the road. And I think that's what makes you good at what you do, Andrew, is the fact that you're able to kind of walk people along the path.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
So do you have any solid tips out there for anybody that's out there doing something like this? Whether they're local or in another state. Like what's been probably the biggest tip that you can give somebody if they're wanting to get into pre-foreclosures or wanting to just do better?
You got to be persistent. You got to suck for a while.
Yeah.
I sucked for a long time. I still suck in a lot of things.
Yeah.
But you got to just keep going and keep getting in the reps. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned earlier, I do want to kind of, before we start kind of winding down, you mentioned that your call flow has 4 pillars. What are those 4 pillars?
They're not in this particular order, but they're condition, timeline, motivation, and price.
Okay. So those are the 4 things you kind of want to analyze, or you want them to kind of answer before you start making an offer, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and it's as far as like cold calls, if you're talking to somebody, I think the first thing to get out of them is the price, because you can get that to go lower later if you just ask them again.
Right.
So you're asking them how much do they want? You're never really like, oh, I can pay this.
That's
right up front.
No, you always want to get the seller to name the price first if you can.
Yeah, yeah. Whoever mentions price first loses. I've heard that in business multiple times. Like when they say a price, that gives you a negotiation point. Like, okay, this is what you want. Let's figure it out from there. Because what Andrew could offer could be higher, right? on whatever reason. Like I
Sure.
could give you 120, and what if you only wanted 80?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Definitely. Good negotiation tip right there for sure. So the first person who mentions price loses.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes you gotta that's a case by case basis too, because sometimes if somebody's not talking to you, or if you need to say a price, I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you feel like you're at a point where you've kind of like replaced that income that you're making from the Amazon business?
Oh,
Or-
definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So what are some of your goals this coming year?
I'd like to buy a house for my family to live in.
Okay.
No.
That's a good goal.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can get a super sweet sub 2 deal.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to pay 7 or 8% interest.
Me neither, but I'm
Nobody
probably
does.
going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Nick? Should we kind of get ready
Yeah.
for the...
Yeah. Do you want to do the wrap up?
Yeah, the wrap-up question. So real quick, Andrew, I do want to say that I think it's like super cool that you're doing this, and the things that I've learned here is like you can start on YouTube University and you can make some really cool businesses out of this. Obviously, listen to Pace Morby, and then you said the other guy. What was his name? I apologize.
Michael Frankie.
Michael Franklin. Yeah. You find these people who have the knowledge and are willing to give you the knowledge for free. The information's out there, but the action part is something that you have to do, and that's something you mentioned too. Like you can only watch YouTube videos for so long. Sitting and watching YouTube is not going to make you money, but taking action on what you've learned will. So yeah, definitely thank you for that. And like I said, we'd have just a couple of wind down questions for you. So the first one is, if you had one business or real estate investing book that you recommend every single person read, what would it be?
Shit. You know, the funny thing is, once I started selling books full time on Amazon, I kind of stopped reading.
Sure. Okay.
So I don't really, I can't really say I've read anything like that recently. And when I did read books, it was all like Civil War biographies and stuff like that.
Okay.
I haven't read too many business books.
Sure.
Nice.
I mean, I did read the 4 Hour Work Week a long time ago. But
Yeah, that's a good one.
So I can't really recommend anything other than that because that's the only one I've read recently.
That's okay. Well, that's a good one to recommend for sure. The next question is, if you had $30 million gifted to one of your bank accounts, what's the first thing you would spend it on?
I'd probably go down to Mexico and visit my brother and his family down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
What part of Mexico?
My little brother lives in Mexico, yeah.
What part?
Puerto Vallarta.
Okay.
We've been there.
Nice. I was just there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
Next question for you, Andrew, is how do you define success?
It's probably by achieving what you set out to do and sticking with it long enough to achieve that.
I love that. Cool. When you're not investing in real estate or, doing these cool wholesale deals or pre-foreclosures, what do you like to spend your time on?
I like to take my kids fishing.
Nice. Okay. Very cool.
It's a pretty simple life.
Yeah, I love it.
Get this guy a sub 2 house, would you? Out there.
If anyone wants to get a hold of you, do you have any social media, or if anyone wants to actually sell you their house, like how should they go about doing that?
You can call my phone number.
Okay.
It's 208-620-0429.
Cool.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts?
No, I think that was great. Andrew, thank you so much again
Yeah.
for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing your story and your techniques, and yeah, thanks for being on. That was great.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.